أهلا وسهلا فيكم. بدي أحكي معكم اليوم عن القصة كيف تدريب عربي من صفر. So, hi everyone. If you are a new beginner in Arabi, I really want to kind of go over how to learn Arabi from like ground zero, right? Now, I'm not like this video isn't going to be useless to someone who has some experience, has taken some classes, but I want to just kind of start from from a ground zero, what the roadmap for learning Arabic looks like. Now, Arabic is a pretty difficult language. I don't say this to scare anyone off or to you know like make you feel any certain way. I just want to set a realistic expectation. I started learning about 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago, and um, it's kind of it's there kind of is a strategy to learning it, and I don't feel like most programs cover it very well. Most people who teach it, maybe even native speakers, they kind of go about it the wrong way. They kind of prioritize things that aren't as helpful to native speakers, and so that's kind of why I'm making this video in the first place. So a little bit background: I am Palestinian. I have Palestinian family members. We're Palestinian, and so my learning is very specific to the Palestinian dialect, but I'm also learning the Fusha dialect, which is the standard written dialect. But this should be pretty general, broad to any Arabic dialect, and some of these might even apply to like completely different languages if you're not learning Arabic in the first place. But you're still welcome here, of course. So I'm just gonna give a couple of steps, like for a beginner, what direction you're looking for. I it kind of feels like you're kind of hacking through like I don't know bushes, and there's no real path. You have to kind of chart your own path. And I figured since I kind of already did that, maybe I'll make it easier to get started charting your own path. It may not follow exactly, but it's better than nothing, right? So the very first thing that you should do is learn to read and write in Arabi script. I know it's really tempting to use the Latinization. There was a big like push and fanciness of using the numbers. Like you've probably seen like the Arabi numbers. Let me see if I can find it. Arabi numbers letters. I don't know if I can find. I don't know if that's a good way of finding it. Texting slang. This is not too bad. So I don't know if you can. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. So like you'll see like there's some letters that kind of correspond to a number because we don't have that in English, right? So like for example, if you wanted, oh perfect, it's right here, Khalid. So you see there's like a 5. This is like cool, and like you might encounter it, but it's just really not that useful for learning because these transliteration, like this is what's called transliteration, it's not universal, it's not standardized. So as a learner, you can't expect things to agree on the transliteration, and because of that, it makes like you're kind of like stuck on the resources that match your transliteration, or it makes it like more frictionful to use a different resource that uses a different transliteration thing. And it's like if it gets standardized, it could become like great, but in this case, like it's just better to get familiar with the script and use the resources that work with the script, because that will just set yourself you're studying up. It'll make it so much easier going forwards. So once you kind of have a grasp of the letters and the sounds they make, and you're familiar with it in the positions, like the medial position or the beginning position or the ending positions, then your next step is to get used to putting them together, making words, right? So for example, you might know the letters ka, ta, and ba, right? So ka is a ka sound, like cat, ka, ka, ta, T sound. Like you kind of get the idea, right? So you have your sounds, but if you put them together, for example, one word is katab. Katab. Katab is a verb. It means to write. And what you might notice in Arabi is that a lot of your verbs, some of your basic verbs, are simply three letters concatenated together. So this is a feature because Arabic is what's called lugha al-jadr, meaning language of roots, and those those words, vocabulary, they surround three literal triliteral consonant roots. So three letter roots. So like kataba, that's three consonants. Put them together and they become a word. They become a verb. And so that's very common in Arabi. You'll see it a lot. You'll see a lot of different combinations of letters and roots, and that'll make your basic verbs. And so when you're learning vocabulary, it's somewhat easier, but also somewhat harder because you just need to learn those three letters, and then you can kind of like, you kind of get more word. You kind of get words, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that, and I do want to make a more deep dive, like organized video, just going through it and kind of hand holding a little bit more. But you want to kind of get to that point where, okay, I want to learn some roots. I want to learn some words, and kind of get started with this. So to accomplish that, I actually highly recommend a book. It's called 17 Arabic Verbs. You can probably find other alternatives for like your dialect. Like there was one that was like Palestinian Arabic verbs, so I also checked that one out. But this is actually generally pretty good. And so you can just get some basic vocabulary, and you'll see a lot of these are three letters. So like there's akul, akel is eat. There's amar, be'a, baram, daqar, dafa, daras. Like they're all three letters put together. Boom, that's your verb, right? So this is actually a really great place. So you learn the letters, you learn their sounds, and now you kind of move to getting some basic words. Maybe your next step is to make some sentences. So for example, biddi anam, biddi I want, anam sleep, right? And you just kind of get familiar with like these basic sentences, basic sentence structure, basic grammar. Learning to conjugate, taking like something like nam, which is to sleep, the word sleep, and it literally means he slept, right? But if we add a banam, a ba to the beginning of it, we can say banam, I sleep. Or if you chain it after biddi, you say biddi anam, right? So this is something that you kind of got to like learn, and there's lots of good videos. I can probably make some videos too if you guys want, up to you guys. I'll go where the need is and where I feel like I should go. And so that's kind of that's how you get into sentences. That was how I got into sentences. I started with letters, went to basic words, and then I kind of started going to basic sentences, just asking for stuff like atini mai, give me water, or biddi akul jash, I want to eat chicken, right? And so that's a like a great like starting point, especially for like a beginner. And I feel like that there's some value to kind of having that laid out a little bit, kind of there's like a path that you can follow. Now, one of the things that I find is really, really frustrating about language things, and this is kind of the end of the like advice. This is more like a rant section. If you want to skip this, you can absolutely skip this. Is I don't feel like the curriculum for learning Arabic, especially at least in the United States, they don't talk about roots. They don't talk about these kinds, this pattern, this reality of the language. They kind of just shove it aside. They just like, oh yeah, you got, that's like conjugation stuff. You'll figure that out later. You'll learn that later. No, there is something to roots. You have, for example, shirab. Shirab means to drink. So if I say bishrab, that means I drink, right? Now, shirab comes from the root sharaba. Sharaba is something with drinking. It has something to do with drinking. So now, what can I do with that? What does that information get me? This is something that they don't teach you about. But if you, for example, put mashroob, so if we take, here's a browser, and I'm going to say, so here's sharaba. if I put a meme before the first one, I concatenate these two together, and then I put a wow, mashroob. Now we've turned shirab into a thing for drinking, a thing of drinking, like drink. So if I say mashroob, I can have. Wow, my thing got so dark all of a sudden. Face got so dark. So now I have mashroob, hada mashroobi. This is my drink, right? So there is like a purpose to root. So you do want to like it's not a waste of time. It's not something that's going to surprise you later. So I would highly recommend just getting familiar with it. And for someone just starting out, maybe this is like going crazy. So maybe if you're like a little bit more more confident, you can check this out. But there's a really good channel called shoot, what is it called? Like Five Lang Media. That's what it's called. Lang Media. FC Lang Media. And they have a really great playlist called Arabic where is it? First year Arabic. Where is it? Here it is. This is such a good, like it's worth going through and like watching these. Like I've watched so many of them, and like this one is such a good video explaining the root system, and I highly recommend, even if it's like crazy, like beyond your understanding. Like you're watching and you're like, oh my god, Matthew, Issa, I don't know what the fuck I'm listening to. Don't worry, just stick with it. It's like you don't have to understand it, but being aware that it's a thing, and so when you are ready, like what to dive into next, gonna be like a game changer. And that's something that I find really, really problematic with the way that they teach Arabi. I took an Arabi class at my university, UCLA, for a year. Not really a year, about 2 quarters, because we're a quarter system. And after the second quarter, I just couldn't take it, because I was like, when are we going to get to roots? When are we going to get to this kind of stuff? And it just, there's no, roots are the thing that bind the Arabi language together. So really, really, really want you to just think about roots. You don't have to understand it fully. You don't have to understand like, the forms of form 1, 2, 5, 8. Like you don't need to know them. Like I'm just now like 2 years in finally getting to, okay, this is what the root, oh, this is what form 5 is. This is what, form 8, form 7, form 10, and how they relate to each other and that kind of stuff. You don't have to get to that. If you do feel like you're ready for that, that now you have a base to go to it and to start learning it. So I really do hope, I know this kind of like devolved into a rant and whatever. And, for someone who's just beginning, they're going to be like, what the hell is Form 5, Form 10? What? Don't worry about it, But I want you to be empowered and to know what you're committing to, what you're signing yourself up to. I feel like they kind of lie to you when they don't teach you about this stuff, when they don't tell you this kind of stuff. So anyways, I hope this like kind of overview video was helpful. I want to expand on this and kind of like fill in gaps and really like I don't know if I want to teach Arabi, but I want to answer questions, study habits, those kind of things. So if you have any questions, if you have anything like specific to studying, or maybe there's just something in Arabi that you've encountered that you want to talk about or you want to hear about and you want to hear more about, I have family members who speak Arabi natively, and I can pick their brain and kind of like synthesize it up and give an answer to something. So yeah, that's my intention. So I really hope this video was helpful. I hope that you benefited from something. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment, and I will look through it and I'll kind of incorporate it into a follow-up video. Awesome. Have a good day. I'll see you guys. Ma salame.